I signed the divorce papers. My ex said, I want equal time. Then his girlfriend moved in, and he gave our daughter back. I thought the divorce would be the finish line. Not a happy finish line. Not some powerful moment where I walked out of court smiling, healed, and free. It felt more like crawling out of a wreck and realizing I was still alive, even if every part of me hurt. My divorce from Dave Smith became official at the Maricopa County Superior Court in Arizona. It was a bright, dry morning in Chandler, the kind where the sky looked too clean for something so ugly to be happening. I stood outside the courthouse with a folder in my hand, waiting for some big feeling to hit me. Relief. Grief. Anger. Anything. But all I felt was tired. Dave was already gone. Of course he was. He had walked out with his attorney, Frank Taylor, checked his phone, and left like he had just finished a boring appointment. He didn't look back once. That hurt more than I wanted it to. Not because I still wanted him. I didn't. Whatever love I had for him had been dragged behind too many lies. But part of me still wanted him to understand that this was not just paperwork. This was 11 years of my life being stamped, filed, and put away like it had never mattered. We had been married for 9 years. Together for 11. We had one daughter, Lily, who was 6. And before anyone asks, yes, Dave cheated. Not one drunken mistake. Not one bad night. Not a kiss he regretted the next morning. It was a real affair with Tina Davis, a fitness instructor at Peakline Fitness Studio in Chandler. I found out because he got careless. He was on the couch with Lily one evening, showing her a cartoon clip on his phone. The screen froze, so she brought it to me and said, Mommy, it stopped. And right there, across the locked screen, was a text. I miss waking up next to you. My whole body went cold. Not angry. Not loud. Just cold. Lily stood beside me, waiting for me to fix the video, while I stared at the message that split my marriage open in my hand. I waited until she was asleep before I asked him about it. Dave lied badly. First he said it was a joke. Then he said Tina was just dramatic. Then he said it was emotional but nothing physical. Then he admitted they kissed. Then kissing became sleeping together once. Then once became a few times. Then a few times became months. The truth did not come out like a confession. It came out one dirty piece at a time. By the time he stopped changing the story, I was packing his clothes into black garbage bags. He stood in our bedroom doorway crying and saying, You're really going to destroy our family over this? I remember looking at him and thinking, no, you destroyed it. I'm just refusing to live inside the ruins. But I didn't say that. Lily was asleep down the hall, hugging her stuffed bunny, and I didn't want her first memory of our divorce to be me screaming. So I only said, go. Dave stayed with his parents in Gilbert for a few weeks. His mother, Pam Smith, called me twice and left long voicemails about how marriages have hard seasons and how I needed to think about Lily. His father, Mike Smith, said almost nothing. He was never cruel to me, but he never stood between Dave and the consequences of anything either. Then Dave got a 2-bedroom apartment near Gilbert and suddenly started acting like father of the year. He pushed hard for 50-50 custody. During mediation, he sat across from me in a pressed shirt, speaking calmly like he had not been crying on my kitchen floor days earlier. He said he wanted equal time because he was Lily's father. He said no one had the right to turn him into a weekend dad. He said Lily needed both parents equally. I told my attorney, Jane Miller, that Lily was struggling. She was only 6. She had started asking if Daddy left because she spilled juice on the rug. She woke up at night asking if I was still there. I wanted a slower transition at first, not to punish him, but to let her adjust. Dave acted like I was trying to steal her. He said, You're using her because you're angry. Jane touched my arm under the table. She didn't have to say anything. I knew what she meant. Stay calm. So I did. Dave promised he could handle school drop-offs, lunches, homework, doctor appointments, bedtime, everything. He said he wanted to prove he was not just a good father when things were easy. And because Lily loved him, because she still ran to the door when his car pulled up, because I did not want to become the mother who made her father smaller in her life, I agreed. 50-50 custody. Alternating weeks. Shared holidays. Shared decisions. Everything he demanded. I hated it, but I told myself maybe this would force him to step up. Maybe if I stopped catching every dropped ball, he would finally learn to hold something. At first, he tried. Or at least he performed trying. He bought Lily unicorn sheets for her bedroom at his apartment. He sent pictures of pancakes on Saturday morning like he deserved applause for feeding his own child. He texted me things like, she brushed her teeth without fighting tonight, as if I had not handled that every night of her life before he moved out. I answered politely. Short. Only about Lily. I wanted peace more than I wanted to be right. But the cracks showed quickly. Lily started coming home exhausted. Not normal tired. Heavy tired. The kind where a child looks too small inside her own body. She would climb into my lap after school and just sit there quietly. Then her teacher, Wendy White, stopped me one afternoon at Maple Ridge Elementary School, where I also worked as a clerk. Wendy was gentle about it, which somehow made it worse. She said, "Lily has been more emotional on Mondays after she comes back from her dad's. Nothing serious yet, but she cried during reading because she couldn't find her folder. I thanked her and apologized like it was my fault. That is the strange thing about being the default parent. Even when something happens in the other house, you still feel responsible for the child who comes back from it." Then Dave forgot Lily's lunch. The first time, I told myself it was a mistake. He was still learning the routine. Maybe I was being too harsh. The second time, the school called the office. My boss, Principal Liz Wilson, gave me that careful look people give you when they know your life is falling apart, but you still have to answer phones and file attendance sheets. I brought Lily food from the staff fridge. Yogurt, crackers, an apple, and a small cookie left over from a meeting. She smiled when she saw me, but she looked embarrassed. She said, "Daddy said he packed it." I kissed her forehead and said, "Sometimes grown-ups forget." It's okay. But it wasn't okay. That afternoon, I called Dave. I said, "Lily didn't have lunch again." He sighed like I had interrupted something important. "I thought she could get lunch at school." "She can, but you didn't put money on her account." "Well, nobody told me." I closed my eyes. "Dave, you're her father. You can ask." His tone changed immediately. "This is exactly why co-parenting with you is impossible." I looked down at my desk, at the stack of attendance papers and the little bowl of mints I kept for nervous kids, and thought, I am asking a grown man to feed his daughter, and he is acting like I started a war. Then came the Target call. Dave called me from Target in Chandler on a Thursday evening. He sounded rushed and irritated. "What size shoes does Lily wear?" I blinked. "Why?" "She needs sneakers." "She has sneakers." "Well, she left them at your house." "She wore them to school this morning." There was a pause. Then I heard a woman's voice in the background say, "Just ask if she knows. We've been here forever." That was the first time I heard Tina's voice. Not introduced. Not explained. Just there, in the background of my daughter's life. I asked, "Who's with you?" Dave said, too quickly, "A friend." "A friend shopping for our daughter's shoes?" He snapped, "Do you know the size or not?" I told him the size and hung up. That night, when Lily came home, she mentioned Daddy's friend. She said it casually while taking crayons out of her backpack. "Daddy's friend says I put too much syrup on pancakes." I kept my voice calm. "What friend?" "The lady with the shiny hair." I swallowed. "Is she there a lot?" Lily shrugged. "Sometimes. She smells like flowers, but really strong." She said I can't jump on the couch because it's not a playground. After Lily went to bed, I called Dave. I asked, "Is Tina staying at your apartment?" He did not even ask how I knew her name. He said, "You don't get to control my home anymore." Something inside me went quiet. Not calm. Not peaceful. Dead quiet. I said, "I'm not trying to control your home. I'm trying to know who is around our daughter. She's my girlfriend. She's part of my life. You moved your affair partner into Lily's second home without telling me? Don't call her that." "What should I call her?" He said, "You need to move on." There it was. Move on. The phrase people use when they are tired of being reminded of what they did. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him he did not get to turn my daughter's life into a fresh start fantasy with the woman he cheated with. But I knew he would use any emotion against me later. So I kept my voice low. I said, "Lily needs stability." He said, "Then stop making everything dramatic." I hung up before I said something I couldn't take back. After that, Lily's stories about Tina became more specific. Tina had a shelf in Daddy's bathroom. Tina liked the apartment clean. Tina said cartoons were too loud in the morning. Tina got upset because Lily spilled juice on a yoga mat. Tina told Lily she was old enough to entertain herself. Each thing was small. Nothing dramatic enough to bring to court by itself. Nothing that sounded like danger if you said it out loud. But together, they formed a pattern. My child was being treated like an inconvenience in the home her father fought to have half the time. I tried to talk to Dave about routines. Bedtime. Lunches. School supplies. Screen time. Who could pick Lily up? Normal co-parenting things. He said I was micromanaging. Pam said I was bitter. Then one evening, Tina texted me from Dave's phone. "Lily is refusing dinner. What does she usually eat?" I stared at the message for a long time. I wanted to type, "Ask her father." I wanted to type, "Maybe the man who demanded equal custody should know what his child eats when she is overwhelmed." But Lily was the one who would go hungry if I chose pride. So I typed, "Buttered noodles, cucumbers, or toast. Don't force too much. She shuts down when she feels pressured." Tina replied with a thumbs up. A thumbs up. I cried in the laundry room that night with the dryer running so Lily would not hear me. The affair was not the deepest cut anymore. The affair humiliated me. It broke my trust. It made me question every late meeting, every gym bag, every time he said he was tired. But watching him fail Lily after fighting for her like she was a prize hurt worse. Because I could survive Dave not loving me. I didn't know how to watch Lily slowly realize she was optional. My best friend, Sue Jones, met me at Oak and Ember Cafe one afternoon after I had barely slept. Sue was an auditor, practical and blunt in a way that could sting, but she loved me enough to tell the truth. I told her about the lunches, the bedtime problems, Tina texting from Dave's phone, Lily saying Tina got tired of her. Sue listened, then stirred her coffee and said, "You're still waiting for him to become the man he pretended to be during mediation." I hated that because it was true. I said, "I just want him to be a decent father." Sue looked at me gently. "I know. But you can't want it enough for both of you." That sentence stayed with me. After that, I started documenting everything. Not because I had some big revenge plan. I documented because I felt like I was going crazy, and writing things down made things real. Dates: Lily came home exhausted. Dates: lunches were forgotten. Screenshots of messages. Notes from school. Times he changed pickup plans. Times he asked me basic things he should have known. I didn't know yet that all of it would matter. Months later, the divorce became final with the 50-50 agreement still in place. I thought, okay, this is my life now. It is unfair and messy, but at least the rules are written down. For 3 weeks after the divorce, things were almost quiet. Not good, just quiet. Then Jane called me while I was at work. I stepped into the supply closet because the hallway was full of students lining up for lunch. I still remember the smell of copier paper and lemon cleaner. Jane said, "Kate, I received a filing from Dave's attorney." My stomach dropped. "What kind of filing?" "He's requesting a modification to the parenting plan." I gripped the shelf. "Modification how?" There was a pause. "He wants to reduce his parenting time." For a second, I did not understand the words. Reduce his parenting time. I said, "To what?" "Every other weekend and one midweek dinner." The supply closet felt too small. I said, "He fought me for 50-50. I know. He accused me of trying to take Lily from him. I know. He said he could handle it. I know." I pressed my hand over my mouth because I felt like I was about to make a sound I could not control. Jane said, "The reason listed is that the current arrangement is not sustainable for his household." His household. Not Lily. Not school. Not emotional stability. His household. I thanked Jane, hung up, and stood there between printer ink and paper towels while my whole body shook. That evening, I called Dave. I know I shouldn't have. Jane would have told me not to. But sometimes the mother in you outruns the woman trying to be smart. He answered with an annoyed, "What?" I said, "You filed to reduce custody?" He sighed. "I figured your attorney would call you." "That's what you have to say?" "I don't want to fight." "You filed a court motion after fighting me for months over equal time." "Because I tried it, Kate." "I tried. And it's too hard on Lily going back and forth." I stared out my kitchen window at Lily's little plastic slide in the backyard. I said, "Is it too hard on Lily, or is it too hard on you?" He went quiet. Then he said, "Tina and I are trying to build a life too. The schedule is a lot." There it was. The truth. Not the court version. Not the polished version. The real one. Parenting his daughter was interfering with the life he built after cheating on her mother. I said, "So Lily is inconvenient." He snapped, "Don't twist my words." "I don't have to. You finally said them clearly." He said, "This is exactly why I didn't want to talk to you." "No, you didn't want to talk to me because you know how awful it sounds." He hung up first. That night, Lily was coloring at the kitchen table. She had drawn 2 houses. One had a yellow sun above it. One had gray clouds. I sat beside her and asked softly, "Which house is that?" She pointed to the sunny one. "This one is ours." I swallowed. "And the cloudy one?" She kept coloring. "Daddy's." But not because of Daddy. I was afraid to ask, but I did. "How do you feel when Tina's there?" Lily shrugged with one shoulder. "She gets tired of me." I kept my face calm because mothers learn how to bleed quietly. I said, "What do you mean, sweetheart?" She says Daddy needs quiet. And she says I ask too many questions. My throat tightened. "You do not ask too many questions." Lily whispered, "Daddy says she's just not used to kids." That was the moment I stopped feeling crazy. It was not one forgotten lunch. It was not one rude comment. It was not me being bitter or unable to move on. My daughter was being trained to make herself smaller in the home her father demanded. After Lily went to sleep, I sat on the bathroom floor with the shower running and cried into a towel. But this time, the crying turned into something else. Not revenge. Something colder and clearer. I opened my laptop and emailed Jane. I wrote, "I don't want to force him to take more time if he doesn't want it. But I want the record clear. He asked for equal custody, failed to maintain it, and now wants less responsibility because it disrupts his household. I also want child support adjusted." Then I attached everything. The texts. The school notes. The missed lunches. The last-minute changes. The message from Tina. Every small thing I had saved because some part of me knew the truth would need witnesses. When I hit send, I didn't feel powerful. I felt heartbroken. Because no document in the world could make a father want his child more. Jane called me the next morning and told me she had reviewed everything I sent. Her voice was calm, but not cold. She said, "Kate, this helps." I was standing in my kitchen before work, packing Lily's lunch with one hand and holding the phone with the other. Lily was in the living room watching cartoons with her blanket wrapped around her shoulders. I asked, "Does it help enough?" Jane paused. Then she said, "It helps show a pattern. But I need you to be ready for something. Dave's attorney is going to frame this as him making a mature choice for Lily's stability. They're going to say he recognized the schedule wasn't working and adjusted before it caused more harm." I stared at the peanut butter sandwich on the counter. I said, "So he gets to fight for equal custody, fail at it, make her feel unwanted, and then look responsible for quitting?" Jane said, "That's why we need to stay focused on facts." Facts. I had plenty of those. Dave forgot lunches. Dave changed pickups. Dave didn't know Lily's shoe size. Dave let Tina text me from his phone because neither of them knew what to feed my child. Dave told me the schedule was too much for his new household. Lily came home tired. Lily drew his house with gray clouds. Lily said Tina got tired of her. But facts still didn't feel like enough. Because the real truth was not something you could easily put in a legal filing. The real truth was that Dave wanted the title of father more than the work of being one. For the next few weeks, I moved like a person trying not to shake apart. I went to work at Maple Ridge Elementary School. I answered phones. I printed attendance sheets. I smiled at parents who came in late with forgotten water bottles and permission slips. I helped kids find lost jackets. And every time a father walked in holding his daughter's backpack, every time a dad bent down to tie a little sneaker, every time a man signed a child out early and said, "Come on, kiddo, dentist time," something in me twisted. Not because those fathers were perfect. Nobody is. But they were there. They knew the shoe size. They knew the dentist time. They knew where the backpack was. Dave had gone to court to demand half of Lily's childhood, then decided the daily pieces were too heavy. I tried not to show any of this around Lily. That was the rule I made for myself. She could know she was loved. She could know both homes had rules. She could know schedules changed because adults made decisions. But she did not need my bitterness in her little body. So when she asked, "Am I still going to Daddy's next week?" I said, "For now, yes, honey." When she asked, "Is Tina mad at me?" I said, "Grown-up feelings are not your job." When she asked, "Do I ask too many questions?" I knelt in front of her and said, "No. You are allowed to ask questions. Always." But after she slept, I fell apart in small, quiet ways. I sat on the edge of my bed and read custody documents until the words blurred. I reread old messages from Dave where he accused me of trying to keep Lily from him. I looked at the court order that gave him exactly what he wanted, and then at the new filing where he wanted to give it back. The hypocrisy was so obvious it almost felt unreal. Sue came over one night with takeout from a little place near downtown Chandler. Lily had gone to bed, and Sue sat across from me at the kitchen table while I picked at rice I couldn't taste. She said, "You know what the worst part is?" I laughed weakly. "There's a list. The worst part is he'll probably tell people he did this for Lily." I looked down. Sue was right. Dave had already started shaping the story. I heard it first from Pam. She called me on a Sunday afternoon while Lily was at a birthday party. I almost didn't answer, but a part of me still worried every call could be about my daughter. Pam said, "Kate, I hope you're not making this custody thing ugly." I closed my eyes. I said, "Dave filed it, Pam." "I know, but he's trying to do what's best. He told us Lily has been overwhelmed going back and forth." I gripped the phone tighter. Lily was overwhelmed because he couldn't maintain the routine he demanded. Pam sighed, like I was a difficult child. "You know, Tina has been trying very hard too." There it was. Tina. Always somehow part of a conversation about my daughter. I said, "Tina is not Lily's parent." "No, but she's part of Dave's life now and Lily needs to adjust." I almost laughed. Lily needed to adjust. Lily needed to be flexible. Lily needed to understand Daddy had a new life. Lily needed to be quieter, easier, smaller. Everyone kept asking my 6-year-old to adjust to the adults who refused to act like adults. I said, "Pam, I am not discussing this with you." She said, "You used to be more reasonable." I said, "I used to be married to your son." Then I hung up. I felt guilty for about 5 seconds. Then I didn't. The hearing was scheduled for a Thursday morning. The night before, Lily had trouble sleeping. I found her sitting on the floor beside her bed, holding her stuffed bunny by one ear. I sat down beside her. "What's wrong?" She looked at me with those big tired eyes and said, "If Daddy doesn't want me all the days, did I do something bad?" I swear something inside me broke so cleanly I almost heard it. I pulled her into my lap and held her tight. "No," I said. "No, baby. You did nothing wrong." "Then why?" I wanted to say, "Because your father is selfish. Because he wanted to look like a good dad more than he wanted to be one. Because some people love the idea of children until children need them at inconvenient times." But I didn't. I said, "Sometimes grown-ups make choices because they are not good at handling things. But that is not because of you. You are easy to love, she whispered, even when I asked questions. Especially then. She leaned against me, and I rocked her slowly in the quiet room. That was the moment I stopped caring what anyone thought of me. Dave, Tina, Pam, friends who wanted both sides. People who thought divorce should be clean and polite and mature, as long as they were not the ones scrubbing the blood out of the carpet. I didn't care anymore. I was not going to scream. I was not going to beg. I was not going to force Dave to take days he clearly did not want. But I was done helping him look better than he was. The next morning, I dropped Lily off at school early. Principal Liz Wilson met me near the office and asked quietly, "Are you okay?" I said, "Not really." She nodded like she understood that sometimes honesty was the only thing a person had left. She said, "Take the whole day. Don't rush back." At the courthouse, Jane was already waiting. She wore a navy blazer and carried a thin folder, not a dramatic stack like in movies. She looked composed. I envied that. Dave arrived 10 minutes later with Frank Taylor. He wore a gray suit and the same injured expression he used whenever he wanted people to believe he was being forced into something. Tina was not there. For some reason, that made me angrier. She had been present enough to text me about dinner, present enough to complain about cartoons, present enough to be part of his household, but not present enough to sit in the room where the damage was being discussed. Dave glanced at me once, then looked away. We went into the courtroom. Judge Ruth Brown was serious and calm. Not warm. Not cruel. Just focused. I watched her read through the papers while my hands stayed folded in my lap. Frank spoke first. He said Dave was requesting a parenting schedule modification in the best interest of the child. He said the alternating week schedule had proven difficult for Lily. He said Dave had observed emotional strain and wanted to create a more stable routine. He said every other weekend and one Wednesday dinner would allow Dave to be more present and intentional during his parenting time. More present by being present less. I stared at the table. Jane had warned me not to react, so I didn't. Then Frank said Dave had made this decision thoughtfully, despite knowing it might be misinterpreted. Misinterpreted. That word burned. Jane stood after him. She did not sound angry. She didn't need to. She said, "Your Honor, my client does not object to a schedule that reduces conflict and gives Lily Smith more consistency. However, we strongly object to the way Mr. Smith has characterized the reason for this change." Judge Brown looked up. Jane continued. Mr. Smith fought aggressively for equal parenting time during mediation. My client raised concerns about Lily's age, adjustment, school routine, and emotional state. Those concerns were dismissed by Mr. Smith as anger over the divorce. Once equal time was granted, Mr. Smith repeatedly failed to maintain basic routines. Then Jane opened the folder. She did not exaggerate. She did not call Dave names. She simply read facts. 2 missed lunches. Multiple late pickups. Text messages asking basic care questions. A documented call where Dave did not know Lily's shoe size. A message from Tina using Dave's phone asking what Lily would eat for dinner. Teacher concerns from Wendy White about Lily's emotional state after transitions from Dave's home. Jane said, "My client is not asking the court to force Mr. Smith into parenting time he does not want. She is asking that the record reflect the actual pattern and that child support be recalculated according to the new parenting time." Dave shifted beside his attorney. For the first time that morning, he looked uncomfortable. Judge Brown asked Dave a few questions directly. She asked, "Mr. Smith, why did you request equal parenting time if you believed the schedule was not sustainable?" Dave cleared his throat. "At the time, I thought it was best." She asked, "What changed?" He said, "Lily was struggling." Judge Brown looked down at the documents. According to these messages, Ms. Smith raised concerns about Lily struggling before the equal time order. Dave's face tightened. He said, "I didn't want to be pushed out." The judge looked at him for a moment. Then she asked, "Were you being pushed out, or were you being asked to consider a gradual transition?" Dave didn't answer right away. Frank leaned slightly toward him, but Dave spoke anyway. "I felt like Kate was trying to control everything." Judge Brown said, "Feeding a child, getting her to school on time, maintaining sleep routines, and knowing who lives in the home are not unusual co-parenting concerns." I kept my eyes down because I knew if I looked at Dave, I might start crying. Not because I felt sorry for him. Because hearing someone in authority say out loud that I had not been unreasonable made me realize how long I had been carrying the opposite. Dave tried to recover. He said, "I love my daughter." Judge Brown said, "No one said you don't." And somehow that was worse. Because love was not the question. Showing up was. The hearing did not last as long as it felt. The modification mostly went through. I was granted primary physical custody. Dave got every other weekend and Wednesday dinner visits. Holidays were adjusted. Pickups had to be done by Dave personally unless we agreed otherwise in writing. Major changes had to go through the co-parenting app. Child support was recalculated. Dave's jaw tightened when the number was read. That part almost made me laugh, but I didn't. He wanted fewer mornings, fewer lunches, fewer school nights, fewer bedtime routines, fewer sick days, fewer responsibilities. But he still looked offended that less parenting meant more financial support. When it was over, I felt nothing at first. Then sadness hit me so hard, I had to sit down in the hallway. Jane sat beside me. She said, "You did well." I whispered, "It doesn't feel like winning." She said, "Custody rarely does." Dave came out a few minutes later. Frank was beside him, talking quietly, but Dave stepped away and came toward me. Jane stayed seated, but I felt her attention sharpen. Dave said, "This didn't have to be ugly." I looked up at him. He looked tired. Annoyed. Maybe embarrassed. But not devastated. That told me everything. I said, "It already was ugly. You just didn't like seeing it written down." His face changed. For a second, I saw the man I used to fold laundry beside. The man who used to dance with Lily in the kitchen. The man who once cried when she was born and said he had never loved anything so much. Then he was gone again. He said, "You always know how to make me the villain." I stood up. "No, Dave. I spent years helping you avoid being one." He looked wounded. "That would have worked on me once. Not anymore." I walked away before he could answer. When I picked Lily up from school that afternoon, she ran into my arms like she always did. She smelled like crayons and playground dust. Her ponytail was loose on one side, and there was marker on her wrist. She asked, "Is court done?" I froze for half a second. Then I said, "Yes, baby. Court is done." She looked nervous. "Am I in trouble?" I knelt in front of her right there beside the school gate. "No, you are not in trouble. Nothing about this is your fault." She nodded, but I could tell she didn't fully understand. How could she? She was 6. She still believed adults made sense if you explained them slowly enough. That night, I made buttered noodles and cucumbers. Lily ate in her pajamas at the kitchen table and told me a long story about a boy in her class who said lizards could grow back their heads. I told her that was not exactly true, and she rolled her eyes like I had ruined the magic. After dinner, she asked if she could draw. She drew 2 houses again. This time, one house had a sun, a tree, and flowers. The other was smaller, with no clouds. Just a door. I didn't ask what it meant. Some things children say better when you don't force them to translate. The first weekend under the new schedule came 2 weeks later. Dave picked Lily up on Friday evening. He was 10 minutes late. I almost said something, but I didn't. Lily came home Sunday afternoon with a new stuffed cat and a bag of clothes that were not washed. She seemed tired, but not shattered. That became the new pattern. Every other weekend, Dave became the fun dad. Donuts. Movies. Stuffed animals. Sometimes a trip to the park if the weather was good. Wednesday dinners were usually pizza or burgers. He posted pictures sometimes, smiling like a man who had figured out fatherhood in 2 weekends a month. At first, that made me furious. Then it made me sad. Then, slowly, it became background noise. Because the daily life was mine. The school mornings were mine. The homework was mine. The dentist appointments were mine. The nightmares were mine. The birthday party invitations, library books, permission slips, stomach aches, missing shoes, loose teeth, and bedtime questions were mine. And yes, it was exhausting. But it was also real. About a month after the hearing, Tina posted a picture at the Copper Table, a wine bar in Chandler. I didn't see it because I was looking for it. I saw it because someone sent it to me, thinking I needed to know. It was Tina and Dave sitting close together, glasses raised, smiling like they had survived something. Her caption said, "Peace looks good on us." I stared at it for maybe 10 seconds. Then I blocked her. Not because it didn't hurt. Because it did. It hurt that she called it peace when my daughter had cried herself quiet in the back seat after leaving their apartment. It hurt that Dave could sit in a wine bar and celebrate having fewer days with his child like he had finally solved a scheduling problem. It hurt that the woman who once asked me what my daughter would eat now got to pose as the reward after the mess. But I was done letting them live rent-free in my head. Sue asked me later if I wanted karma. I said yes before I could make myself sound mature. Of course I wanted karma. I wanted Tina to realize she had not won some passionate, misunderstood man. She had won a broker who didn't know his own child's shoe size. I wanted Dave to wake up one day and realize the ordinary moments he gave away were the ones that mattered. I wanted Pam to understand that defending her son did not make him better. It just made everyone else more tired. But karma did not arrive like a dramatic scene. It arrived quietly. It arrived when Lily stopped asking if Daddy was coming on extra days. It arrived when she started calling my townhouse home without thinking. It arrived when she had a fever and asked for me, not him. It arrived when her teacher told me Lily seemed calmer. It arrived when Dave texted one Wednesday to cancel dinner because of a work conflict, and Lily only shrugged and asked if we could make grilled cheese. That shrug hurt more than tears. Because tears meant she expected more. A shrug meant she was learning not to. I never celebrated that. I need people to understand that. I did not celebrate my daughter expecting less from her father. I did not celebrate him becoming a smaller part of her life. I did not celebrate being right. Being right felt awful. But I did feel relief. And that is the part one still feel guilty about. I felt relief when the house was calm. I felt relief when Lily slept through the night. I felt relief when I no longer had to repair her after every other week of chaos. I felt relief when I could pack one lunch, follow one routine, keep one bedtime, and know where her shoes were. It felt like getting my child back. Not from her father exactly. From the confusion he created. Months passed. The divorce stopped being the first thing I thought about in the morning. Dave became a name on a calendar instead of a storm in my chest. Tina became someone I didn't check on. Pam stopped calling as much after I stopped answering anything that wasn't directly about Lily. Life got smaller, but also steadier. I worked. I paid bills. I learned which repairs in the townhouse I could handle myself and which ones needed a vendor. I took Lily to school. I watched her lose her first tooth. I sat on the bathroom floor with her when she had a stomach bug. I signed field trip slips. I made pancakes on Saturdays and did not send anyone a picture for applause. One evening, Lily and I were sitting in the backyard after dinner. The Arizona sky was pink and gold, and she was drawing chalk flowers on the patio. She looked up suddenly and asked, "Mommy, do you think Daddy misses living with us?" I put my coffee down. "I don't know, sweetheart. Do you?" I thought about lying. Then I said, "Sometimes I miss what I thought we had." She nodded like that made sense to her, even though I'm not sure it did. Then she went back to drawing. That night, after she fell asleep, I stood in her doorway and watched her breathe. Her stuffed bunny was tucked under one arm. Her hair was spread across the pillow. She looked peaceful in a way I had not seen in a long time. That was when I understood my revenge was never going to be loud. It was not going to be a public breakdown. It was not going to be Dave begging to come back. It was not going to be Tina exposed online or Pam apologizing or some perfect courtroom speech that made everyone clap. My revenge was this. A quiet house. A child who slept without worrying she was too much. School forms with my name first. A calendar that no longer felt like a threat. A life where love did not feel like something scheduled around someone else's convenience. Dave got what he asked for. He got freedom. He got his girlfriend. He got fewer responsibilities. He got to be the fun dad twice a month and call it balance. But he lost the ordinary things. He lost Tuesday morning ponytails. He lost knowing which cup Lily wanted when she was sick. He lost the way she told long, confusing stories after school while taking off only one shoe. He lost the bedtime questions. He lost the little daily chances to be trusted. And the saddest part is I don't think he understands those were the treasures. Sometimes people ask if I hate him. I don't know how to answer that. I don't wish him misery. I don't spend my nights hoping his life falls apart. I don't stalk his girlfriend's posts or ask mutual friends if they're happy. But I also don't forgive him in the pretty way people like to talk about. I don't forgive him for making Lily wonder if she was hard to love. I don't forgive him for using fatherhood like a courtroom costume and then taking it off when it got uncomfortable. I don't forgive him for making me carry the emotional weight of his choices while he complained that I was bitter. Maybe someday I will. Maybe not. For now, I am too busy packing lunches, checking homework, paying bills, and teaching my daughter that love does not ask her to be smaller. I know some people will say I should have pushed harder for Dave to keep more custody. That a child needs her father. That I let him off too easily. That I should have fought for Lily to have equal time with both parents. But how do you force someone to show up with love? You can force a schedule. You can force child support. You can force a pickup time. You cannot force a father to know his daughter's tired face. You cannot force him to hear the difference between a normal question and a scared one. You cannot force him to understand that bedtime, lunches, shoes, and fever medicine are not small things. They are parenting. They are love with work clothes on. So yes, when Dave reduced his custody, a hidden part of me felt relieved. Not proud. Not happy. Relieved. Because my daughter deserved a father who wanted more time, not less. But she also deserved a home where she never had to feel like a burden. And if that home has to be mostly mine, then I will build it. Even if I'm tired. Even if it's unfair. Even if people judge me for being relieved that the man who broke our family finally stopped pretending he wanted to hold half of it. So am I wrong for feeling like I got my daughter back when my cheating ex-husband asked the court to see her less?